So what is a good idea? Because there is this uh, split between micro influencers versus the large ones. So what is your take on bringing them on board? Who is a better deal and in the for the brand to benefit from?
Yeah, we've gotten really positive response from a performance and also just a subjective reaction from the brand around a lot of these nano and micro influencers that might have less follower count, but just very much exude like, hey, genuinely care about this product. Um, this isn't like a full-time job for me where I have, an army of PR people helping me. It's the nano has been very attractive. It can be some challenge around kind of the scalability and the organization of them, but again, that's one of the things that we can help support with. But the brands, from a performance and a subjectivity perspective, are really responding positively to getting a good volume of quality, authentic um, partners that are really not necessarily massive. We're talking about like sub 50,000 followers, sometimes even less, sometimes sub 10,000. And you have to balance that with the traffic volume, revenue volume you're going to get from those. But I've seen examples where influencers can be very high ROI. They're not going to be as high ROI as your highest ROI performance marketing channels, but as part of the mix, I've seen them get definitely a number of them getting definitely a return on investment and ROI.
Well, I mean, this is interesting. So, uh, influencer marketing programs rank much lower on the ROI scale compared to your other marketing programs. But I would have thought that the reason why people choose influencers is because of the ROI, because of their wider reach. So why is it not as favorable?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, on a whole that it's not as favorable. I think that what happens is it's very dependent upon the channel. We're talking about YouTube, Meta, TikTok, et cetera. There's so many channels and there's so many brands and so many different situations. So I don't want to say like it's not as favorable. I would say if you're talking about like Meta is just a machine from a performance marketing perspective. Google, especially with some intent-based search, very hard to beat from a pure performance marketing perspective, right? If you introduce some of the affiliate elements of like deal and loyalty where there's intent, but then you kind of mix in content, the ROI there can be phenomenal. Affiliate can have one of the best ROIs and efficiencies in CAC I've seen. Um, I think I think it's if you're talking about comparing it to those outside of that, again, it's a bit of a blanket statement, but I think it can compete. But it has to be really well set up and structured the right way. You got to have the URL, you got to have your UTM set up properly, you got to have maybe a unique code to help make sure you're tracking properly. It's not as attributable as Google search, just as an example. I think people get that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think again, people can lose their shirt on an influencer if they're not doing it the right way, and maybe they're putting too much stock in those big names and not as much of that, excitement, passion for your product, et cetera. Like we talked about, that engagement rate, and some just don't convert as well. Um, some of that's attribution, but some of that's more of a you're more getting into the awareness consideration part of the funnel versus the conversion part of the funnel. It still plays a role, and that's that. Then you get into the difficult part of the attribution process. But you know, we counsel clients all the time on, hey, what kind of attribution window makes sense? How do we set these up the right way so that you are getting the best ROI possible on influencer? So if we do influencer, we tend to get ROI, right? We tend to get efficiency. But I think compared to those really most efficient channels, it's usually not going to be your, hey, I got the best ROI, I got the best CPA of all my other channels. Ideally, it still plays a part. It still contributes.
Hmm.